Hi, I'm Mark Jadell from Apple's Enterprise Sales Group. Welcome to our series of online seminars focusing on how to use Apple more in the enterprise. Now, you know Apple and our products from our great iMacs and MacBooks, MacBook Pros and Xserves, even of course our iPods. Customers ask us, can Apple integrate into our existing environment? Can you deliver great value? And how can you help? In terms of how Apple can integrate into your existing environment, we often need to talk about how we can work with your existing management environment. Are we secure? How are these systems today enterprise ready? There's a common misperception that we hear all the time that Macs are not affordable. Well, let's take a closer look at that. When you talk about the initial purchase of a brand new system, Macs are pretty much the same price as a PC. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But where Macs really shine is when you look at the overall total cost of ownership and you start looking at lower support costs because of fewer help desk calls or fewer bug fixes and viruses and patches, and even on the licensing side, much lower costs because there are no CALs. Put all of that together and you see much lower costs for owning and operating a Mac for your enterprise. And of course, when you think about Apple's legendary ease of use, you see that people can immediately start to become productive when they get a brand new Mac. When companies are able to get Macs to be a first-class citizen on their network, they then give their employees a choice on what computers to use. And we find that people want Macs. Later in this seminar, you'll hear from two of our customers, Dale France from Auto Warehousing Company and Paul Nicholson from Showtime, who will talk about their own examples deploying Macs in their enterprise. But first, I'd like to introduce Joel Rennick, our Consulting Engineering Manager for the Enterprise Sales Group, and he's going to highlight some compelling features of OS X for the enterprise.
Thanks, Mark. One of the great things that we have in OS X is some of the directory services, and this is how we can integrate with your existing infrastructure within your enterprise. For example, we have a built-in Active Directory client, leverages LDAP and Kerberos to give you single sign-on to all of your Windows resources. For example, I can go here to my system in Directory Utility, and I can see what directory services that I've got set up for myself. If I authenticate as an admin, I can then go in and do some configuration in here. In this case, this is an LDAP server that I would have connected, but we can also do directly to an Active Directory system and other systems that are out there. So this really helps the OS X systems to integrate very easily within your environment, making sure that we can fit in, provide you a very robust client solution for your existing infrastructure. Another place where OS X is very, very strong is some of the client management tools that we have available. We can allow you to do policy controls, application restrictions. All of this will help you lower your total cost of ownership. And it allows Apple to give you a very complete picture of how you can go from the loading dock to the recycler and have a nice client management experience for your users. One of the tools that we use to do this is Workgroup Manager. In this case, we're going to an LDAP server, but we could go to Active Directory or any one of a number of directory services here. I can select a user, I can go up to Preferences, and now I can manage them. I can go in, for example, and determine what's going to be in the user's dock, how the dock is going to show up. Is it going to be really large and magnified? All of this gives me options that I can really give my users a very robust client management experience. And as an admin, I know that they're only able to do exactly what I want them to do. 64-bit applications are another really distinguishing factor of macOS X Leopard. For example, with Leopard, you can have both 32-bit and 64-bit code on the same system running with native performance. Even further, we can incorporate both PowerPC and Intel code in the same disk image. For example, you can have Intel, PowerPC, 32-bit, and 64-bit in the same disk image, which means as an enterprise, it's very, very easy for you to deploy this system onto a number of machines. Going back even 4 or 5 years, you don't have to worry about a specific disk image for every family of machines or every brand of computers that you have. We'll cover them all under macOS X Leopard. We also have a large amount of technology that helps us to leverage Intel's multiple core technologies. All of the OS X systems that ship today have Intel chips with dual cores or better in them. So we're optimized for multiple cores. We have a new scheduler in Leopard to even enhance performance better. And we've gone back and we've multi-threaded the network stack to make sure that we can push as much data as possible through the chip at the same time. Mac OS X Leopard is also Open Brand Unix certified. This means the system is fully POSIX compliant as certified by the Open Group. If you have existing enterprise code that uses POSIX calls, POSIX APIs, it should be very easy for you to port that code to Mac OS X, either for development or for a deployment environment. Another amazing developer technology that we have in Mac OS X Leopard is some of the Web 2.0 technologies that we have. We've got both Python and Ruby on Rails in there out of the box, the latest and greatest to help you build those new web applications. We've also created a bunch of bridges. This is especially important for doing rapid application development. So you can code in Ruby, you can code in Python, but yet there's bridges to allow you to use the Mac OS X GUI. So you don't have to worry about creating a full GUI on top of what your script would otherwise be. So this helps you both in prototyping applications and in developing new Web 2.0 applications. So take the best of the open source world, take the best of the Apple developer technologies, and it's a world-class development environment on Mac OS X. Safari 3 is Apple's new web browser. It runs both on OS X, on Windows, on the iPhone, and it's also the browser that's part of Google's Android cell phone development platform. This means that you can take those great Web 2.0 technologies that we just talked about, and you're able to put that on a wide variety of platforms and not have to worry about whether they're going to look the same or not. The rendering engine behind all those versions of Safari is exactly the same across the board. So not only do we give you a great Web 2.0 development platform, we give you a great Web 2.0 delivery platform as well. Apple takes security very, very seriously. We've not just bolted it on the outside, but we've actually built security into the core of the operating system. With Leopard, we have mandatory access controls. These allow you to put applications into individual sandboxes where an application can't affect what another application is doing, and an application might be limited from having any impact on the rest of the system entirely. Similar to this is tag downloads. So this is another new feature of Leopard. And for example, I've just downloaded OmniGraffle Pro here. When I open this disk image up and I launch the application for the first time, it warns me that this application hasn't been run before. So it lets me know that this is new code, it's not something I've seen, and it also allows me to go directly to the website that I downloaded it from, so I can see what I was doing when that happened. We also have a brand new firewall. Inside System Preferences in the Security pane, there's the firewall. We've always had a built-in firewall in Mac OS X, but now we take it up another notch and allow you, instead of having to determine what ports and specific services that you're going to allow, now you can just enable the applications themselves. By going in, hitting the plus button, and picking an application, Apple will actually do all the work for you to ensure that that application has access to the internet that it needs to. You have options to block or allow incoming connections. When you do this, we actually go in and sign the application. And that's another functionality that enterprises can really adopt. We allow the enterprise to do any code signing that you want. Through the policy controls that we talked about earlier, you're even able to lock down users to only run signed applications. And you don't need to come to Apple to get the certificate. You can use any certificate, even if it's self-signed, that you've already established for this purpose. So combining the signed applications with the sandboxing of the mandatory access controls and the ability to go into the firewall and not have to worry about ports, but more just enabling applications to access the internet, gives you a very robust security environment, especially for mobile users. As long as we're talking about certificates, let's show you some of the great things that we can do with our new certificate assistant. For example, if I go to a secure website, in Safari, I've got the lock. I can see the certificate that's over here. I can take this certificate, and I can use keychain access and the certificate assistant to evaluate that certificate. This allows me to see the entire certificate chain that might be connected to this. I can look, see if it's trusted. I can get all this information about it. And it allows me to have a very robust PKI infrastructure. So in addition to just viewing web certificates and ensuring that you're operating in a secure manner, I can also set up certificate identities. I can use using new keychains here, put certificates into these keychains, have those locked and be different from the other keychains that are out there. Didn't have a strong enough password. That's some of the security that we put in to get the users to actually have a very robust, secure environment. I can create certificate identities. So if you're using client-side certificates to manage access to websites, users can now set up specific identities to use one of a number of certs they might have available to do things such as client-side certificates. Also on Mac OS X, we can allow you to heavily leverage smart cards for strong two-factor authentication. Not only is there built-in support for the U.S. government PIV specification, but you can use a number of over-the-counter commercial smart cards to do things such as unlock the file vault, which is Apple's encrypted home directories. Also, you can use this to unlock keychains, and you can use it as that client-side certificate that I talked to previously. Your users can have that smart card, use that for their identification across all of your enterprise applications. Also in Leopard is 256-bit AES encryption, so much stronger data at rest encryption than before. We only had 128-bit. And you can utilize this just by going into the Utilities folder, Disk Utility. I can now create a new disk image, and I can enable it to have 128-bit or 256-bit AES encryption. With this being built into the system, you don't have to worry about having devices that support it. I can now put a 256-bit AES encrypted disk image on any thumb drive or anything else that we bring into the environment with us. All of this goes back to helping Apple allow you to be a much more secure, much more highly mobile enterprise environment. For example, we've got built-in VPN access. If you go into System Preferences and you go into the network, right out of the box, I can add in a VPN connection using either an L2TP over IPsec or a PPTP connection here. We'll do both, and we work with a lot of the vendors since these are pretty much open standards, and we can get into those environments without having to use third-party commercial clients to provide the connectivity for you. All of this is done through the network preference pane, server address, account names. For authentication settings, we're more than happy to handle things such as an RSA Secure ID or a client-side certificate. All of this can be done right out of the box. So combine all these technologies, the built-in VPN functionality, the firewall, the sandboxing, and you have an amazing mobile user environment for your CEO, for your salespeople on the road, or for your coders that just want to develop at home. This is how Apple and Mac OS X Leopard can easily integrate into your existing enterprise infrastructure. Apple can be a first-class citizen on your enterprise network.
I'd like to introduce Dale France from Auto Warehousing Company and Paul Nicholson from Showtime, who will talk about their own examples deploying Macs in their enterprise.
Hi, I'm Dale France, Chief Information Officer of Auto Warehousing Company based in Tacoma, Washington. We're a new automobile processor. We'll receive new cars straight from the factory, accessorize them with whatever customizations the dealers want, whether it be turbochargers or air conditioning or floor mats or DVD players, and then we arrange to deliver them to the dealer via truck or by rail. We handle about 5.5 million new cars each year, and we're based in North America, US, Canada, and Mexico. We have 25,000 cars on the ground at any given time, and we flow them through our facility at the rate of about 1,000 to 1,500 per day. When you think about having 25,000 cars on the ground, and you have to keep in mind that since these are new cars coming from manufacturers, we may have 5,000 of the same color and the same model of car in place in the lot at any given time. So to locate a vehicle by its individual VIN number would be impossible to do without the use of technology. So we have technology in place to scan the cars the minute they're received into our facility, and the computer systems we have direct the vehicles throughout the yard for parking, through the shop for accessorization, ultimately out to load lines for rail or for truck. Essentially, the computers have control of where the vehicles go from the minute they hit the ground to when they leave the facility. All of our information that's specific to the work orders that relate to a single vehicle all come in through some form of electronic communication. They're received electronically, passed through the shop floor to make sure that we can accessorize the car properly. We reached a point where we knew we were going to need to make a platform change of some type because our proprietary application wasn't compatible with Vista, nor was any of the existing hardware that we had throughout the organization. So we were going to need to purchase new hardware. We purchased Apple hardware, got some Mac Pros dozen MacBook Pros and handed them out to the development staff and basically said, see what you can do with this, see what you think of it as a platform. And gave it to our network engineering team and said, see if you can integrate these, these Apple computers into our network. Results from my IT team were nearly 100% positive. Our network engineer loved the Unix platform that OS X is built on and was very excited about that. Our software development team threw together some proof of concept tests related to Java, to rewriting our proprietary application in Java. That just blew me away when they brought them in to show me. Very quickly, we were able to determine the viability of Apple equipment in our existing platform. When we were originally considering our technology platform change, my first concern was our client computers. That was the biggest problem that we had to solve and the most urgent need to address. Once we felt comfortable with the Apple solution for our clients, then we began to take a look at Apple's server products. We found very quickly that the Xserve and Xsan storage solutions for servers were far less expensive than comparable products. Our cost per gigabyte went down dramatically when we went to an Xserve and Xsan solution. So we began to deploy those throughout the enterprise almost immediately. After we became comfortable with that, then we began to take a look at the other items that came included with the Leopard server suite, OS X Mail, Podcast Producer, Wiki Server, iCal Server, and began to determine that there were a number of our Microsoft server technologies that we could migrate over to the Apple platform. And what we found is, in every case, we found either a direct fit or even a better fit or new functionality that we didn't have before at a significantly reduced cost. Moving to Apple, we encountered some resistance that I didn't expect, simply because of the perception that Apple is an extremely expensive brand to buy. There was some concern among our workforce that the company was going to spend millions of dollars needlessly on expensive technology, when in fact that wasn't the case. So in order to better explain our reasoning to the workforce, we held some town hall meetings where essentially I laid out the business case for a migration to an Apple platform and was able to justify for them that actually we'll spend less in bringing Apple into the enterprise than we would have if we'd maintained our traditional server and PC platform. Any technology platform change, you would expect to have a significant amount of training, whether that's training on the hardware, training on the operating system, training on the application software. One of the things that we found in the migration to OS X and the Mac is the Mac is so much easier to use and so much more intuitive that we actually didn't have to spend as much money on training as we originally thought that we would. Ultimately, AWC decided to select Apple as our technology platform for a couple of different reasons, really. Just being able to reduce complexity and license management down to practically nothing was a significant factor for us. And the cost that goes along with each associated license can produce some staggering numbers in a large enterprise. And so for us, being able to reduce the licensing complexity and reduce the licensing cost across the enterprise was huge. The stability and adaptability of the technology in the enterprise. The Apple technology plays very well in a blended environment, which is what we have and what we'll continue to have. The technology foundation of the servers are different, and we found that to be a huge technological plus for us. Our uptime with the Apple servers that we've implemented has been significantly higher than the uptime with the corresponding Windows servers. And ultimately, all of that results in dollars saved for the company, which is really one of the things that we're here for. We engaged Apple Professional Services at a very serious level to come in and just essentially help us with migration planning to migrating over to the Apple server technologies that we were going to employ. Professional Services came in for 3 days to just work with us to help us understand what the technology migration plan would look like and how we would work through them. And essentially that gave us a great overview as to how this project was going to go. I'm Dale France, CIO of Auto Warehousing Company, and I am an Apple Enterprise customer.
My name is Paul Nicholson. I'm the Vice President of Print and Broadcast Production at Showtime Networks. Showtime is owned by CBS Corporation, and so within CBS Corporation we have Showtime Networks, which is 12 premium television channels, subscription-based. Our job at Showtime is really to just put on cutting-edge breakthrough programming for our subscribers. Showtime has 16 million plus subscribers at this point, and we're growing by leaps and bounds every year. Within Showtime is a division called the Red Group. That's our in-house creative department. On the broadcast side, we're creating all of the spots that run on all of our 12 networks. We don't sell commercial time, so all of our breaks are filled with promotional videos that try to drive viewership to our various shows. On the print side, we are pushing out all of our own advertising, marketing materials, direct mail, etc., with very tight deadlines and lots of ads and billboards to get out there up and on time. The rest of the company looks at us as the main creative resource to provide them with the assets they need to promote our brand. The challenges for us is really the amount of work that we have to get done and the amount of time we have to do it. Every single thing we do is deadline driven. The ads have to get to print when they have to get to print, and the spots have to get on air when they have to get on air. There is no questioning that. Our creative department runs off of literally hundreds of Apple desktop computers, whether they be MacBook Pros for our offline video editing or our Mac Pros for our online video editing rooms and our Pro Tools rooms and our retouchers and various print people. In addition to those, we have a number of iMac computers that our various business users are using for applications like FileMaker Pro or our various other business applications. All of this is tied together with storage from an XSAN configuration. Our production philosophy at Showtime is basically to provide our creative department with the tools they need to go from concept to delivery without inhibiting their creative process. The Apple solutions we have in place have really allowed them to create the way they want to create in the time that they need to create without putting more burden than necessary on them. Because Showtime is owned by CBS, we obviously have some infrastructure things to deal with at the corporate level. So we use Exchange servers and various networking operations from our CBS kind of mothership. And then within that, we're the Showtime Corporation, and then within that, we're the Red Group kind of creative island. So it's very important for us to be able to kind of plug into the wall and have everything work. Our IT guys at the corporate level are very concerned about the servers we have in place and that they play nice with the other servers that they have in place. And we really have no problems integrating our creative environment with the overall corporate structure. Red Group is supported by 5 individual Mac techs, we call them. They're spread out across 2 departments, but for the most part, those 5 people are supporting the entire creative organization. That organization is comprised of hundreds of desktop machines and multiple servers and multiple XSAN configurations. All of our online rooms, our audio post rooms, and our QC and versioning department. It's kind of an incredible thing to think about the fact that you've got 5 people and you're supporting these hundreds of machines, but Apple makes that possible. You know, the uptime of these machines is incredible. They stay up, they run, they just work. The reason we really like Apple and the reason that we have it in place is really because it's that easy. It's easy for users to learn what they need to do. You can worry about learning applications and essentially the tools that you use to create the work you need to create in your job, not worry about the technology behind all of that. Training is something that we consider when we put in these systems, and the solutions that we've put in place with Apple and XN and Xserve and whatnot have very low training requirements. Over the lifespan of any Mac, initially you may pay slightly more than your comparable machine, but over the lifespan of the machine you actually save money. The support of that machine is less, the training on that platform is less, the software that you put on that machine costs less for the pro level application, the various licensing tends to be less. So over the lifespan of the machine you save a lot of money using Apple. It seems like Apple comes out with the answer to our next problem kind of right before we even know we have that problem, and it was the same thing with Apple Professional Services. As we integrated more and more Apple gear and workflows into our environment and built up our infrastructure around XSAN and lots of storage and lots of servers and lots of desktops, we really had the need for some pretty high-level intelligence to make sure we were doing things correctly, make sure we were doing things as efficiently as we could be. And they've really been a great resource for us. They've helped us set up some of the more technical things that we're trying to do and really bring in that expertise that you need when you're doing these very industrial strength, enterprise level workflow integrations. It's been a great experience working with Apple Professional Services, and we plan to do so in the future. I'm Paul Nicholson from Showtime Networks, and I'm an Apple Enterprise customer.
So you've just seen some of our customers talk about their own experiences deploying Macs in their enterprise. And you've seen Joel talk about some of the great features of OS X for an enterprise. So it's time to think about how to make Macs a first-class citizen in your environment. We talked about how Macs can integrate into your existing infrastructure, how they just work, and how they can lower your costs overall. Plus, it can make your employees happy. So how can we work together to help you deploy more Macs into your own environment? Well, we've got people who can help with planning, to think through your own situation and conditions and figure out the best ways to get Macs to work great for you. We can help on the procurement side to help you bring Macs in an affordable and effective way. We've got professional services folks that can help with deployment and training and best practices, and we've got support to help you make sure that it all works perfectly for your situation. So I'd like to thank you for watching this seminar and invite you to watch our other seminars to learn more about Apple Enterprise Solutions. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thanks again.